Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm back today with another video for y'all. This is a story that I'm really excited to tell, a story that I've really been hoping to get to tell all season. This one's gonna be about Napoli and how they won this season's Scudetto in Italy. This is such a fascinating group of players with a really fascinating coach as well. And they've been waiting 30 years to get back to the top of the mountain like this. And so it was something I had to talk about. And so there's a few different things I want to cover. We're going to really get deep into it today. We're going to analyze the squad, break it down both from the player profile side of things, a tactical side of things. And then I want to take a look at Spalletti as well, the manager of the team, because I feel like he's had a really interesting career, which in some ways parallels Napoli as a club. And him getting to this level after so long in management, I think is truly impressive and something that deserves highlighting. So we're going to get into all of it today. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to start with analyzing the squad and kind of looking at how their player profiles kind of benefit the tactical setup that Spalletti has given this team. And I want to start by looking at their possession play because I think that's the most interesting part of it for me. So I want to kind of break things down going from the back to the front, starting with the deeper areas of possession and how they build up into those attacking phases, and then what they do with the ball up in those attacking zones. So the build-up starting at the back is super fluid, and that's what makes it such a difficult team to press because all of their defenders across the back four are adept ball carriers and really strong passers as well. And so they're able to really attack space wherever it comes available. And they also have a lot of passing patterns that help them break out of tight pressing situations. For me, the key player that kind of makes all of this work is Lobotka, the defensive midfielder. This guy is such a talented player. He's able to drop deep into the back three, creating a back line, allowing the fullbacks to push up forward. He's able to go vertical to the defenders and call directly for the ball to feet, making quick little transitional passes into the 8 or the fullback on either side of him. And another way that they build up out of the back really creatively is by creating these kind of diamond shapes on either side of the pitch, where the winger and the central defender will kind of align themselves vertically along the pitch, with the fullback advancing forward and the 8 kind of tucking into that space on the inside, creating this diamond position where wherever the pressure is coming from, there's always going to be a passing option between those 3 for the defender. And then from there, they'll alternate positions and, continue to move forward as those gaps become available up the pitch. And so they're able to set up these positions where the IQ and technical ability of their players is able to really shine. I would say that one of the main features of their tactical profile is the way that they're able to attract pressure with intent and then create attacking situations from that. They're only able to do this because of the match intelligence and the technical ability of their midfielders and defenders, which is something that previous generations of Napoli didn't necessarily have. All respect to Koulibaly, but Kim and Jay, what he's been able to offer to this back line, it's a really different level of dynamism, which it just, as a defending team, you have no way to fully intently press this team because they're always pulling options and pulling numbers into these overloaded situations and making it impossible to get the ball back. So I want to take a look at some of those things in action. I took a look at a compilation on Twitter. The link to these things are going to be down in the description, any of the graphics and stuff like that I'm showing today. And so in this compilation, there's a lot of moments of them playing through pressing situations and stuff like that, which really highlight this kind of tactical breakdown that I'm talking about right here. So let's go ahead and get into some of those screenshots I pulled. All right, so here we got Romani on the ball right here. And he, again, these vertical passes, plays this pass right here into Anguissa, where this is a situation where Monza are thinking, he's got his back to the, to the attacking play, if you will. This should be a situation where he is under pressure and he is vulnerable. What they don't see is that as Anguissa is receiving this pass, Lobotka is making a run in behind here to receive this short pass here and open up a passing angle further down the pitch. And that's exactly what we see here. From here, Lozano is able to lay it off back to Anguissa, who makes a forward run up from midfield, again, unmarked because there's been so much quick transitional passes happening in this midfield sequence where you can't stick with your man. You can't keep track of things. It's all happening 1-2, 1-2, quick passing. Everyone's understanding where the space is opening up and where the movement is going to be, and they're attacking it with so much speed, with so much intent. And from this position where Anguissa has broken this midfield line, he now has Osimhen making this run in behind. And This is Victor Osimhen we're talking about here. Of course, that means he's able to beat this defender here and get into a shooting angle, hit it far post, and that's a goal. So here you got Rui on the ball with a diagonal pass up into Lobotka. And then Lobotka doing what he does best, a beautiful first time around the corner pass up here onto the wing, up to Kvaratskhelia. Rui makes the overlapping run, which Kvaratskhelia finds, and now we've got space to work with here. And that's exactly what they do, where now you've got Rui coming down this left-hand side with Kvaratskhelia making this penetrative run here. Kind of these two occupying each other's space over here, and this run coming down towards the middle over here. And so now we've got Rui on the ball in a crossing situation, and Lozano has done a brilliant job of making this run inside, occupying both of these defenders, which opens it up for Lobotka, of all people, to make this run in and around that back kind of post area. And they find Lobotka here at this far post, who heads it home, and it's a brilliant goal from start to finish. You know, the build-up, breaking out of that pressing situation, using space to their advantage, attacking the space when it becomes available, and then making intelligent runs in the final third. That's Napoli. So moving on from the kind of build-up, midfield, and defensive phases of play, looking at that front three, it just works in unison like such a thing of beauty. And I actually want to start with the right wing position rather than kind of the stars of the show. I want to start first with that role because Lozano and Pagliano have done a brilliant job this season occupying that role. Like you just saw in those last screenshots, Lozano was a part of making those intelligent runs inverted in behind. Pagliano does the same thing. They're also both really adept at hugging that touch line and opening up space for Di Lorenzo to overlap on the right-hand side. They do a really brilliant job of creating the space for the creative players who tend to put up more of the counting stats, but that doesn't discredit the role that they're playing in this team. So getting into the young superstars of this Napoli team, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia and Victor Osimhen, two of the most exciting players in Europe right now. I think any club in Europe would be dying to have these guys signing for them this summer. I mean, they've lit the world on fire this season, and so let's get into kind of how that happened. I think it's really just down to the way that their profiles mesh and how intelligent they both are. They just work in unison so perfectly. Khvicha is so technical on that left wing, able to draw in defenders with dribbling moves, beating defenders one-on-one or with quick 1-2 passing moves, and able to get into those dangerous creative zones. And Osimhen is just, he's got such great physicality, so fast, so strong, and he's got such a great touch that he's able to manipulate these areas and spaces in behind. They're also able to interchange positions in the attack really well. Again, it just speaks to the kind of match intelligence. And with Kvaratskhelia in these half spaces, it opens up the wide areas for Osimhen to kind of make these angled runs in between the fullback and left-sided center back, which just, it causes so many nightmares for teams because you either trail Osimhen's run and give Kvaratskhelia space, or you press Khvicha and give Osimhen's run in behind. So you're put into a lose-lose situation whenever these guys get to interchanging in these half spaces. And so I know I've been speaking a lot about the shape and the movement and the way that they kind of interchange positions on the pitch a lot, but that is with a summary of a season to kind of look at now in unison. But from game to game, Napoli can look dramatically different, and that's because their system isn't really much of a system at all. It's more of a philosophy. That's how Spalletti prefers to look at it. And I think there's a quote which kind of perfectly summarizes how this Napoli team plays. Spalletti says, 4-3-3, systems no longer exist in football. It's all about the spaces left by the opposition. You must be quick to spot them and know the right moment to strike, and have the courage to start the move even when pressed. And that's kind of what Spalletti's team is all about this season. It's taking personal responsibility, using your technical ability to your advantage, and advancing the ball forward whenever and wherever the opportunity is presented to you. And I understand how that can get a little bit confusing. You know, it's not that they're just going into games and just kind of vibing it out. That is not at all the case. We've covered some of the different solutions and patterns that they have to the problems that opposition teams will present them with. That is not just an established pattern that they come into every single game with looking to dominate. You know, it's not some Pepe Man City style type of play. They come into a game and interpret whatever the opponent is giving them, and then they're able to attack back. All right, so we've covered their tactical philosophy. We've gone in depth about a couple of the players, a couple of those really crucial guys in that system. Now I want to take a look at the brain that made it all happen, Luciano Spalletti. So Spalletti has actually been in management for about 20 years now, and during that time, he's actually taken 2 breaks from football, 2 complete hiatuses, and those both lasted 2 years apiece. So from his 20-year career, he's taken around 20% of it off from the game. So just from that, you can see that he's had a little bit of an interesting career, you know, definitely spanning a very long time in Italian football primarily. But despite this long career, he had never before this season been able to win the major honor of the Scudetto or a Champions League trophy while managing in Italy. This despite managing for some of the biggest clubs in the country and having some of the greatest players the country has ever seen under his tutelage at various times. So how did we kind of get here and what changed this season? That's what we're going to look into today, starting with a kind of history of Spalletti's career, because I think it starts to tell a story that's really fascinating. So he started his career way back with Empoli in the 90s, and during this time he would actually get them promoted from Serie C all the way up to Serie A, which was a really impressive feat at the time, especially considering those are back-to-back promotions. So after that, he kind of bounced around a bit from Sampdoria, Venezia, AC Acona, and then eventually back to Udinese, which was his first long-term job since his time at Empoli, and that began for him in 2002. And with this being his first job with some real stability since Empoli, he once again began to thrive, and that all culminated in the 2004-2005 season where he led Udinese to a remarkable 4th place finish, qualifying the team for Champions League football, which at that time was something that absolutely nobody expected to happen. And this attracted the attention of Roma. And they were coming off of a pretty rough time where they had actually had 4 different managers in charge of the club during the previous season. So Spalletti definitely had a lot to kind of try and put together at this time. But he was managing one of the greatest Italian players of all time, Francesco Totti. After a poor start to his debut season in 2005-2006 with Roma, he actually changed up the entire formation and system mid-season, which included making Totti a solo striker, which kind of made him now a false 9, since he was traditionally playing as more of a 10. He wasn't going to just all of a sudden be running in behind, leading the line as an out-and-out striker. So he kind of really became an early adopter of that false 9 role, and Spalletti gets a huge bit of credit for that. And this tactical shift really worked, leading to Roma eventually going on an 11-game winning streak, not unbeaten run, winning streak, where they jumped from 15th to 5th in the table. And this was also the season where Juventus had their match-fixing scandal and were booted out of Serie A. And so they were able to jump up from 5th to 4th and qualify for Champions League football. Doing all this in his debut season, it must have felt like a golden opportunity getting his team into the Champions League. And from there, it looked like they were truly capitalizing, with Spalletti leading them to the quarterfinals of the competition. This is where they were battered by Man United, decimated in the second leg of the fixture 7-1, and sent home with their tails between their legs. A Coppa Italia would have to suffice for Spalletti that season, as that would be the first bit of real silverware in his cabinet. And after failing to qualify for the Champions League in 2009, and then a poor start to the 2009-2010 season, there was really not much building on that debut remarkable season that he had at Roma, and so he was sacked. This stint at Roma was kind of the first instance of something that we're going to see continue to play out throughout Spalletti's career, which is that he was able to assemble some really interesting teams, play some really fun football, but making that last step, getting over that final hurdle, it was truly a challenge for him. Kind of sounds similar to another club in Italy that you guys might have heard of, but... So after leaving Roma, he ended up going to the Russian league of all places and managing Zenit St. Petersburg. Spalletti came into it and started dominating Russian football in 2010 with a clean sweep of domestic trophies in his debut season 2010, winning both domestic cups and the league title. But again, this run of success ended up being short-lived, and those trophies he won in his debut season ended up being the only silverware he claimed during his time in Russia, and after a few more seasons, he left the club. This was in March 2014, and he doesn't pick up his next job until March 2016, taking 2 full years off of the game. And where else would he go but Roma? He only managed Roma for 2 seasons during this second stint, but during those 2 seasons, they qualified for Champions League both times, and they were looking really strong. He had reinvented Totti as more of a super sub coming off of the bench later in his career, and overall things were looking really strong. Again, another kind of similar moments to the Udinese stint, where this again attracted a bigger club in Italy, and he jumped up the ladder again, this time landing at Inter Milan. He took over Milan for the 2017-2018 season, and by 2019 was already gone. It was 2 really tumultuous seasons for the Milan club. They did qualify for Champions League both seasons, but they only finished 4th, and they only qualified on the last match of the season both times. I can't imagine the stress that it must have been being an Inter fan, or God forbid a board member at the time, and so obviously, it just clearly was not working out for them, and so he was let go in 2019. And again, he took another 2 years away from football, not picking up another job until 2021 when he was brought in by Napoli. So he joins up with the club in May of 2019, but this is an aging core, and it's kind of writing on the wall that he's gonna need to do some rebuilding if he wants to have some genuine success with the team. He did manage to finish in 3rd place his first season, but again, the core of that team that he was relying on was just aging just too much, and it was not going to continue to work out. And so this previous summer, in the summer of 22, they made 4 massive sales, which completely rocked the core of what this Napoli team looked like. Those being Kalidou Koulibaly, Lorenzo Insigne, Dries Mertens, and Fabian Ruiz. They were replaced by the signings of Giacomo Raspadori, Giovanni Simeone, Kim Min-jae, and of course, Kavica Kvaratskhelia. These younger and more athletic players who were more willing to interpret their coach's vision completely reshaped the way that this Napoli team played, with a different level of synchronicity, a different level of dynamism, and a different level of intent with and without the ball, which has made them so dangerous this season. And I don't say this in any way to disregard the legends of that previous Napoli team. And in fact, I believe they'd have a Scudetto if it weren't for the dominance of Juventus throughout the 2010s. However, things being the way they are, they missed their window to win that title because another team was just simply better. And now that that team has kind of fallen back a bit, it was time for Napoli to try and strike, and that's exactly what they did, and they did it so well. Spalletti finally had a team that trusted him 100%, gave him the keys with a young team that was ready to play his football, and look what happened. They were able to together get each other back to the top of that mountain where parties were looking to get to. You know, Napoli as a club have been struggling for the last 30 years to reach that level of success they had with Maradona back in the 90s. And with Spalletti, this guy's been working in Italian football since the 90s, trying to get to that level. So it's just a beautiful moment where all of the stars aligned for everyone. And it's just, you know, what a party in Naples. Spalletti is finally able to say that he can sit at the table with some of the other elite Italian managers in football, which they have been so blessed with. What a generation of managers they've had lately. Carlo Ancelotti, Antonio Conte, Maurizio Sarri, Allegri, Mancini, Gasperini, De Zerbi, I could go on and on and on. They have got world-class managers out the in Italy right now, and Spalletti is, God, he's one now too. The final thing that I wanted to touch on today was just what something like this means to people, because that's what this game is about at the end of the day. You know, we all watch because it makes us feel a certain type of joy, that childhood joy that for most of us, nothing else really gives us. You know, it's something so special, so real. I've seen so many videos of Napoli fans crying, cheering, dancing, hugging, kissing, celebrating. It's beautiful to watch. The Italian football culture is so controversial, and there's so much, you know, ugly stuff that comes out from there. And, you know, I don't want to touch on that in this video, but the positive side of what it can be is truly beautiful to watch in motion. And I am very happy for those fans in Naples right now.
Yeah, and what will this mean to everyone in Naples when Napoli finally clinch the title?
I think it's gonna be at least a couple of months crazy.
Months?
Months, trust me. Crazy. We are waiting for this moment like when I was child like this. So it's gonna be crazy, trust me, guys.
And then think about the players, you know, you've got this guy from Georgia. When have you ever heard of a player from Georgia being all of a sudden a world-class wonder kid coming onto the scene, not from a Red Bull Academy, not from a top 5 league, not from the Bundesliga, out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, this guy's one of the hottest prospects in Europe. It's absolutely ridiculous. How often do you hear about a South Korean center back playing in China until his damn near mid-20s, and all of a sudden, one of the hottest prospects in Europe, one of the best defenders in Europe this season? It reminds me of the stuff that happens when I play FIFA career mode or Football Manager. This should not happen in the real world. It is absolutely unbelievable. And you know, I'll even give credit to De Laurentiis, the owner of the club. You know, he's definitely another one of those kind of controversial figures. He definitely likes to stir the pot a bit. But you know, I watched an interview of him, and you know, when you listen to him speak about this club and this team specifically, you can tell the passion that he has for Napoli as well.
At the end of May, when some journalists said to me, you are practically selling all those players, what you will do next year? And I said, we will win for sure the Scudetto. And everybody was laughing. And I said, you know, we were doing the last years with some players a little spoiled, so they were empty of enthusiasm. So I need new people. I don't need to make a team with that player, that player, that player. I must make the new team with a group, because a team must be a group of 11 plus another 11 to make the substitution. Everybody on the same level.
It's just a sensational story. It's, you know, I love it when this stuff happens, when an underdog can, you know, really make it to that top level. And, you know, just because it's not in the Premier League or something like that doesn't mean that it's not just as important to the people who are there right now partying and celebrating that championship. You know, as I'm sitting here recording and editing this video, there are people outside right now having the greatest nights and moments of their lives. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. And it's all because a bunch of guys went out and kicked the ball. I don't know. I might have gotten a little, I might have gotten a little weird with it right now, a little too deep and philosophical, but this is one of those stories that makes me feel that way about the game, and I love it so much. And hopefully you guys resonate with that as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you did. I'll be back with some more content soon. You already know that. And yeah, congratulations, Napoli. Peace.